This is Naoki Yoshida.
This is Fern Halls.
And you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go.
Do you ever just have that moment right before a podcast starts where you're like, what do I say when this starts?
Brain goes completely empty, yes.
Yeah. Hi! We're
What do you
Aetheryte
say
Radio.
the wrong podcast intro?
Yes. This is Moogle Go Round with Chille, and also we're the guests, Anidra and Rook.
This is Brain Empty
Yay.
Talk on Aetheryte Radio.
Yes.
Gamers
No,
Games Final Fantasy 14 podcast.
There you go. That's the rest of that.
Sweet, our quality's improved.
Hey.
Ah,
Anyway, as we said last time, these intros, they're just whatever we want now. Sorry, not sorry, Fusion.
We should have, you know what, with Chille here, Chille, I know that you have a love, at least for Final Fantasy music. We should have done a musical intro today, you know? I'll just sung a little bit.
You know what?
think it would've worked
There's
out.
going to be an opportunity about a month from now when Charles has to go on a business trip for us to just sing the intro. Yeah.
I think we need to come up with something. I think
All right.
we do. I think we
I'll
do.
make a note. As we've mentioned, our guest today is Chille of Moogle Go Round. Today is a news
Hello?
episode. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. You should introduce yourself. Hi.
hi, yeah, I am Chille from Moogle Go On Radio. I talk way too much, and you will understand that during this podcast. There's my intro.
Excellent. That's why
There's
we
no
want
such
you
thing.
here.
Exactly.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, today's news on news. We got some regular news, like from the lodestone and stuff, and then we got some just internet crazy raven ranting and also having a good time news. So, as per the norm, we'll start with, regular. It's not regular ass news.
Are we going to cover just regular news too, or is it all ass news?
It's ass news.
Okay, great.
A lot of this is repeats, but it's shortened, and we want to make sure that nobody misses out in case you didn't, hear last time. Patch 6.58 is March 19th, which is very soon. Increased echo strength in Pandemonium, Anabaso Savage, and Anabasios, that one, the last one. Adjustments to PvP actions. Also, Crystalline Conflict Season 10 will end, so you need to get your little Battle Pass doodly doodle done so you get your really sweet-ass armor. It's very cool.
No,
See?
this is the season that ends. Your Battle Pass should still be available until Dawn Trail. This is just your ranks, if I'm rightly.
This is the never-ending headache of this new system.
Yeah.
I love the battle pass. I think it's great, but every time I'm like, a season is ending. Is this when the
previous season?
but
I
are the
thought was
rewards
not the one.
But
Okay,
is it-
so
Yeah.
I'm wrong. Do not listen to me. It's a good thing Chille is here. Also, thank you, chat, for also
Yeah.
putting me straight. Although some of you last time in chat were like, "No, it's totally this time." It's not your fault. I should have checked up on it.
The season ends, which is your rank, which goes up to Crystal, if I'm rightly. I am just a gold, so I don't remember. I'm not sure exactly.
I think you're right. I think it's Crystal. This is Final
Crystal-
And
Fantasy.
then-
Crystal's highest, yeah.
And then series is your battle pass, which goes up to rank 30, which will end. That ends on a major patch. There's normally like a season between half patches.
Oh my god. Why is it season?
And then the
is
series lasts the full
Yeah,
patch.
exactly. Gold stars. They should rename
Yeah.
them. They can't
Yeah.
both start with S. Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm sorry
yeah,
for that.
trust me,
that
it's very
misinformation.
confusing.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative for chat and Chille, also Chicha, for correcting me.
You know, the one good thing though is that if you constantly live in fear of it going away, you'll get it done. So
That's true.
even if you were to just continue to operate under the false impression that it ends as of March 19th, get to grinding, get it finished, and then you won't have to worry about it when you're also prepping for Dawn Trail, you know? Just get it done, get those
I was
rewards.
just doing you a favor.
Yeah, exactly.
Next
This
week
is
we
us
were gonna be
helping.
like, haha, just kidding, haha, but look, you're done. No, I would never do that to anybody. Holy crap. All right.
But
you
yeah, I would
also-
suggest maybe just doing your daily front lines, because
That's
that
what I
will
did.
boost it by a lot.
Twas fast.
So yeah.
Fast and mostly painless. and even fun sometimes when we were winning, and even fun sometimes when we were losing, but mostly not when we were losing.
Look, Crystalline Conflict is always fun. So if you're like me and you grind it out through CC every time, go have fun. Have a great time.
The last time with the Battle Pass, I did grind out through CC in the last, 4 days. So I needed a break.
No, that is rough. When you're trying to, cram
You
it
know.
in tiny window. Oh, no, I've been there. Yeah. I am still waiting for them to bring that Dragon Mount back. I was, 2 Crystalline Conflict short when it reset. So, it's fine. I'll get over it one day, but today is not that day, so...
I would like it if you could, maybe I know there's not many battle passes that do this. Oh, sorry, series pass when it comes to 14. But it'd be interesting if you would be able to buy the series pass with tomes, make it cost 2,000 tomes or a ton of wolf marks, and then you can have that as a permanent thing added to your account. So that way, even when it ends, you can keep grinding it.
Oh, I really like that idea. I mean, okay, sorry, this just blew my mind. I think you could get away with it being tomestones if you still had to do the reward track, right? Where it was one of those things where you still had to play
bought the right
PvP.
to do it.
Yeah, you just unlocked it so that it didn't phase out kind of thing, and you could keep toggle on which one you wanted to work on. Otherwise, I would be totally fine if they wanted to do it for wolf marks too, because I end up with so many extra, or you can convert your crystals to wolf marks or wolf collars. I feel like it would be totally fine to do that. It sounds like at some point they were thinking about adding some kind of vendor, or at least from previous interviews and things. I have no idea if this is really going to end up being a thing. It hasn't shown up yet, where you could purchase past series rewards. But so far we haven't seen them do that or cycle through all of it.
I think that was a mistranslation from stuff because from what it sounded like to me was that. But then I also thought it also sounded like you could buy. The series pass would continue after the series ended, but you couldn't continue it. That's what it also sounded like to me. If you reached that level but hadn't accepted it, after it ended, you should have been able to accept the stuff you had already earned. I don't know but I could be wrong. It's been a while since that interview. It's been a long time.
There's definitely a precedent with PvP of getting older stuff that was no longer gettable just with wolf marks now. So it's possible. There's possible to loop back around. It's a small
I'll admit
but...
I use all my wolf marks because I raid on Crystal, but I have an Aether character, so I have to data center travel. So I use all my wolf marks to buy the squadron item to increase food time.
Yeah.
Fair.
All right. You will no longer, this is the one we've been harping on. You'll no longer be able to play Final Fantasy XIV using Windows 32-bit OS and DirectX 9 applications. This is the last time, you guys. We will be here next week, and this will already have come to pass, and we won't be able to, we could still tell you, but it would be way too late for us to tell you that you got to update this stuff if you haven't. So do it.
Mm-hmm.
Xbox Final Fantasy XIV Xbox Series blah version release is March 21st. You will get the starter edition, which includes A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, and Stormblood, available free as an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate perk for a limited time. It's a very, very limited time, March 21st to April 19th. I believe somebody here has some issues with this.
I kind of do. My issue is the fact that the starter edition, although it sounds cool because it also removes all the limitations of the free trial, so you don't have the guild cap, you don't have the party issues, you don't have the link shell, free company, and all that lot issues.
Can't trade.
And you do with the free trial. My issue is the fact that if you're starting this game for the first time, jumping in on the Xbox version, you won't be able to claim the free trial after you've claimed the starter edition because it blocks you out of doing the free trial. So my issue with this is the fact that I think it's a good idea in theory, as someone who might be in Heaven's Ward, if and really enjoying the game and are fine paying the sub. But the fact that you're limited between March 21st to April 19th means that you're going to be hit with the FOMO issue of the fact that you'll want to grab it because you know it's there and it's going to be going away, which means that you're tied into having to sub to the game. versus those that have the free trial that can play around Reborn, Heaven's Ward, and Stormblood and not pay anything at all until they're actually ready to pay something. And that's my issue with it. There was no date for the ending. It'd be fine.
Yeah, it's so limited too. A month, less than a month, is just not enough time, especially for somebody who shows up later to the party and is like, "Oh, I missed it." Cute. Like I had a friend who started playing this week, and they joined on Thursday, so they didn't get the car mount.
Oh no!
I was like, "That really sucks, buddy." I'm so sorry.
That's rough. So
He'll be back. He'll be back eventually.
Yeah.
So maybe you two can clarify for me, and maybe this will also help clarify for anybody who hasn't kept up with all the details, because I know I haven't. I'm sorry. But does this mean that the Xbox version will not have access to the free trial, including all of these? Is this a
No,
way?
you also have access to the free trial if you want to, from what we've heard. You will have the free trial. It's just that this is also offered if you have Game Pass Ultimate.
So if you want to get the
Yeah.
expansions for free, you got to grab it now. But then you can never do the free trial.
That's just
That's what
so
Chille's
weird to me, though, because with the free trial, you can just play through all of those
Anyway.
literally for free, because Stormblood is now included in the free trial. So it's not like they're really giving you. It's not like they're giving you the whole Hydaelyn-Zodiark arc
Nope.
or something. Like
This starter edition is tricky nonsense, honestly. A starter edition should include all of the expansions.
yeah,
I
it's
think.
like how does this? Okay, I'm having to now evaluate things that I have not actually given that much thought. With
It's
the free trial,
mainly big-
well, hold on. I was going to ask, with the free trial,
Sorry.
when you play through the free trial, and I guess the difference here is that, like, you play through the free trial, you decide that you want to actually commit to the game, so then you buy, like, whatever the most recent expansion is, but those include the previous expansions, correct? So, like,
Yep.
you get all the other ones included with this new one. So if you're getting this, you're paying your sub earlier, but you're also technically getting less
screwed.
game
Yeah.
than if you just played through the whole free trial and then bought Endwalker or Dawn Trail. I assume Dawn Trail will also have some kind of bundle with the other expansions. I don't know.
It's kind of a trick because you could basically just get the free trial. And
Yeah, you could just get the free trial.
you
And
won't own the expansions yet, but if you play it through, you won't be stuck paying anything. And then when you're theoretically done with those, or you decide you want the game, you just buy the latest one and get all of them. It's a trick.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's very weird. And have they confirmed whether or not you have to pay your subscription on top of the Game Pass?
yes, you do.
Oh no!
Also,
Okay.
Yeah.
recently,
You need-
several
by the way,
times
for that-
recently. Go ahead.
By the way, the confusion. If anyone that gets confused by this, because I want to make sure this is clarified exactly, because Xbox Live Gold doesn't exist anymore. They got rid of that. There is now 3 tiers of Game Pass. Well, technically 4, but from what we're discussing right now, only 3 count, because the 4th one is exclusive to PC. So this is Xbox. It doesn't matter. You have the Game Pass Core, which gives you access to online features and selected limited games. So think of, if anyone who's a PlayStation owner, think of PlayStation Plus collection, where you've got a set limited games that you can play. Those are the ones they picked. You can play those. Then you've got Game Pass, not Game Pass Core, but Game Pass, which is then the games that you can play that are added day one when they come out. So any game that they announce like, oh, it's coming to Game Pass, it's coming to that tier. But that does not give you online features, so you can't play games online. So you need Game Pass Core and Game Pass to play those games online. So then you got Game Pass
Sucks.
Ultimate, which then gives you Game Pass Core, Game Pass, and Game Pass PC. So if you want to play Final Fantasy 14 online, you do need to either have Game Pass Core, which is the cheaper version, or Game Pass Ultimate if you also want the standard Game Pass, perks. So you have to, I think it's like $15 a month for Game Pass Ultimate. Not including any discounts, but obviously you
it's
can get discounts on.
Almost $30 a month to play the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I will say
If you-
Game Pass is an incredible value. I mean, the amount of other games that you get access to, even quite a few on release games as well. There's a lot more that you're getting for that than just the 14 subscription. But I can only imagine.
That's what I'm trying to clarify. You would not get those games that are included day one with Game Pass with the sub that you need for online 14.
Well, that's
you have to upgrade to Ultimate.
But you could.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's if you do Game Pass Core, you don't get those on release.
It also depends on the type of gamer you are, too. Like, if you don't want all the extra games, you just want to play 14, you're getting a bit screwed here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to play on Xbox.
Yeah.
That's the big thing. I mean, I guess you can get it for less by doing Game Pass Core, but you're still going to have to pay your sub on top of that, and you won't get the extra value of the other game catalog. But if you... what's the price difference between Game Pass Core and Game Pass Ultimate?
It's about $10.
Interesting. I almost feel like, from my personal opinion, it's more worth it to do Game Pass Ultimate, because then at least you're getting a bunch of other games for like less. For like, you're getting a bunch of other games included with that, a huge catalog of new and old games that give you extra value. But I mean, already as it is, there are quite a few players who can't even play 14 because of the subscription. Like, they literally can't afford subscription games. And there's also players who maybe can afford the subscription but can't afford twice the amount of subscription. So it's rough on this, because I'm really glad it's coming to Xbox, and I'm really glad that there are options for it and that there at least are a couple tiers. But I kind of wish they would have come up with a slightly better bundle for this. I'm sure this is, I mean, there's a reason it hasn't been on Xbox before. This has been, it seems like a big point that has really caused friction in discussions of this when it comes to like whether or not Xbox would allow the game to be on the platform and vice versa, and what their stipulations would be. But it doesn't feel great when you're a player looking in on it and going, I have to pay twice as much as other players just to play this on a console that's convenient to me,
Also, remember, if you are playing on Xbox, it's not just as simple as just playing on Xbox. You will need to go into your settings and change a load of things. Like, you can't just load up the game. You do have to go into your Xbox settings and actually physically change game settings.
Cool.
Because the way that Microsoft is, they don't like people being able to play cross-network play by default. So you have to go into your Xbox beta. If anyone that is thinking about playing the Xbox beta and don't know about this, here's what you have to do. You have to go into settings, account, privacy, and online safety, and then privacy, and then view details and customization. And you got to go to communications and multiplayer. And then you got to allow for multiplayer games, allow for cross-network play. And then you also got to set others to communicate with voice, text, or invite set to everybody. And you also got to go to communicate outside of Xbox with voice and text set to everybody. You have to do all this before you're allowed to load up the free trial or open beta.
Do you have a guide for this
and
somewhere?
Also probably... I'm looking at Polygon's guide right now. But yeah, I think Square Enix also did an official guide as well on the lodestone at some point.
Never saw that. Hoof.
So yeah, so if anyone that's last rant. I'm sorry about this. I don't like ranting about.
Do it.
Please, Square Enix, announce the Dawn Trail pre-orders soon. Not for me as a PlayStation owner or even as a PC owner, but please announce it soon for Xbox players. I know that sounds weird, because I'm not even going to play on Xbox. I'm a PlayStation player, but please announce Dawn Trail soon and allow the pre-orders for Dawn Trail to give you Endwalker as soon as you pre-order it, because otherwise Xbox players are going to have to purchase Endwalker and then only a few months later fully purchase Dawn Trail. They're going to have to announce the pre-orders for Dawn Trail soon so that Xbox players can jump straight into... Not when I say that, I don't mean like they're not going to play Dawn Trail straight away. And But you know what I mean? Maybe so they can pre-order Dawn Trail and then release Endwalker as a version.
Expansion spend.
Yeah. So please do that. I don't want them to have to buy Endwalker and then Dawn Trail.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more Xbox news. There's a sweepstakes going on right now. Xbox FFXIV sweepstakes. #. You can find it pretty easy on Twitter. It's a really cool ass looking Aetheryte Xbox. And you can retweet to try and win. Thing is, it's not real. It's an art piece. So like if you want it because you want an Xbox, then you don't need it.
Wait, what do you mean? It's not real.
Okay, so
It's not a real boy.
it does not function.
Console.
It does not play games.
What?
It is
And it's
an
not
art
like
piece.
It's not a cover that you can like put on your existing Xbox? It's just
No,
a statue?
it's
What?
a statue.
What?
You do
In the-
win
in the
by the way,
fine
you do
print.
win a working. You do win
Oh,
a
you-
working Xbox.
Oh, okay, but they are also gonna give. But it's not even a cover. That's so weird.
Right?
No.
So weird. What are you gonna do? Have your fake Xbox sitting next to your real Xbox and be?
It's really cool looking, and if it
No, it's
functioned,
so cool.
If it functioned, that'd be the coolest damn Xbox ever. But it does not. It is a waste of space.
Like that's super
Wait.
cool, and I did enter the sweepstakes for it. Everybody else, I mean,
I
you
did
can see
too,
it.
and then I was like, oh, it's not real.
Oh my gosh.
I
that's
mean,
so
to be
funny.
fair though, it's not the only time you've seen stuff like that. It's been years, but you ever been to like GameStop or like anywhere like that in America, and they've got like the console that's playable, right? And then it's plugged into a TV, right? And then you got the booth where it's plugged in, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, especially in the UK, the console on display is actually just a fake display unit with an LED to make it look like it's turned on, but the actual console itself is underneath it.
Huh. You think that's like a theft thing?
Yeah, it is. It is a theft thing. So that way, if someone robs the console, they've just robbed an LED light, basically.
Uh-huh.
That's what they've got a plastic box with an LED.
Rook, I love this cup. This dragon cup.
Little
That's
dragon. Thank you. I love it too. I just got it recently. Sorry, I collect mugs, and for those of you who are just listening, oh look at your cute little fox mug. Zanidra and I are both sipping out of our mugs today, so.
Mugs are fun. Anyway,
No, that's
yeah,
funny.
apparently you get a real Xbox, but it's not, the cool ass looking one, so.
Interesting.
I had to make sure I drop ass in there a little bit because I did promise ass news.
You did promise ass news. I did not realize that it was a prop Xbox, but it does look really cool.
It looks
and
amazing.
It would look great in a gaming room and stuff, And
But
it's nice that at least they're giving you a real one as well, because they would feel very weird if you got it and you were like, why does this not plug in? What is this?
It'd be good. It would be really good for like a streamer who's really into Final Fantasy and excited about the Xbox release. Just like put it on the shelf behind you, display it during your stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you just like, if you got like a cupboard or whatever, put the Xbox, if you'd like a digital player, just put the Xbox in the cupboard. Make sure there's like airflow at the back or whatever, and then just have that on the actual side. So you're like, look, there's my Xbox.
Do like the store. Put a little LED in it. Fun. All right.
Yeah.
Little Ladies' Day is happening right now. If you looked around and gone, oh my gosh, it's Friday here. That's why. March 14th to April 1st. The quest to get the reward, the P horn, which is the pink gubu with the flower crown, is in Miketo's Amphitheater. And as always, various holiday items related to Easter and Little Ladies' Day are on sale on the online store. And there's some quality Little Ladies' Day like emotes and items and stuff that if you've missed out on them before, now's a great time to grab them. Pretty earrings, the fan dance is good. And we're gonna have the 10th anniversary 14-hour broadcast on April 12th. It's a bit out. It's at 8 p.m. PDT. We don't know what's going to happen during it yet. We might get some news on that later, but it's happening. Write it in your calendar, maybe. Who knows? It's at a decent time for America. 8 p.m.
Yeah. It's at 4 a.m. for me. It's great.
Yeah, perhaps not for you, but for us this time it is.
Yeah, it's always a trade-off, right? Like either JP has it comfortable and nobody else does, or JP and one other region like just barely are within the confines of being comfortable, and like usually it's gonna either be EU or US. And I mean, I am so sorry, Chille,
know,
but if it's US, I'm happy.
Yeah. Well, it's probably.
Well, to be fair though, it'll be going through the night for you, right? So like, what you can do is just like halfway through we can like tag. Like, you can give me the baton, like, halfway through.
Yeah.
You can go to bed, I can watch the last
I
half.
was going to say, it is a 14-hour broadcast, so, the first, 2-3 hours will be all right. But then it's like, I don't care, sleeping. For normal people, I'll be awake the whole time because I'm a weirdo. So the actual like new lodestone news we have today is the upcoming test of the cross-region data center. That's really cool. I don't remember if they've mentioned this before. They probably have, maybe. But suddenly they're like, hey, you remember that thing we might have talked about before? We're actually doing it. We have been working on it. And it's starting March 24th, very soon, at 8 p.m. PDT also, until the beginning of patch 7.0 maintenance. So that's happening for theoretically a while, a couple of months. We can only visit the Oceania data center, which makes sense. But yeah, I think that's going to be super cool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a whole lot of friends on other data centers, but you know, I do hang out with some Aussies and some Kiwis. We can they were like, we can go to Oceania and you guys can experience what we experience all the time. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, we will.
Amazing. I do love this because particularly with doing so much PvP casting and things like that, a lot of times it'll either be like EU or NA stuff. And while I have made an EU alt since then, you know, I know a lot of times when Lithy and I cast together, Lithy doesn't have an NA alt. So then we're trying to like broadcast the feed to somebody else I mean, it'll be nice to be able to go and visit. And while this isn't like a full release of it, it is kind of like testing those waters. And as we've heard, Square Enix is very hesitant about this because of the possible kind of culture clash, because of, you know, a lot of different things within the different, you know, regions. And I've heard a lot of folks talking even on Twitter and, you know, other platforms about the fact that maybe initially they were really excited about this and then they got a little apprehensive given what we've seen with some of the opening up of data center travel, that it might mean that more so than ever, we're going to see kind of completely abandoned servers and others where like the entire raid scene is funneling to like one world region, one data center, those kinds of things. And it's interesting because I would rather us have the travel than not, because I do think that that flexibility is something really great. And I think that especially if they update some of our social systems in the game, like free companies, like free company buffs, being able to be in more than one, being able to have access to those buffs even when you're on a different world. If they can kind of like increase stuff like that, or with link shells or with other things where we can have more flexibility, or even maybe be in multiple FCs or own houses on different worlds that aren't our home world, etc., etc., I think that it will be a net gain overall. But I do understand some of the worries about this because we have seen that certain data centers have just been it's been so much quieter with some of this and some of the worlds and things. There's all these memes about like which worlds are completely dead and stuff like that. Although of course there's still some people playing, but we have actually really seen that there has been kind of a descent onto specific points for specific things, and that it has grown much slimmer in other worlds when it comes to things like raid listings or stuff like that in, you know, public party finders. I don't know how both of you feel about it.
Well, I was on Crystal like the day they unlocked Savage, and we were raiding that night. We're like, let's look at the party finder, and like there was 2 people on the day that, you know, the Savage was unlocked, and there was like nobody doing anything. It's like, oh, this hurts.
Yeah, Crystal has suffered a bit, especially because when they initially split Aether into Aether and Crystal, people were like, oh no, panic, abandoned ship, I can't stay on Crystal, all the raiding will be on Aether. It is very much, or was very much, a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so now, as a person on Crystal, if you want to go and party find, you have to go to Aether, because it's not really happening over on Crystal. Which, in the end, because it's available to go over there now, I don't really mind. It's not difficult to get there by any means, and it does help to condense the population, the parties of what you're looking for anyway. So having it all in one place is a slight inconvenience, but it's not that bad. And having it all smooshed together in one list rather than spread out is kind of nice, to be honest. I don't honestly think, though, when we change it so that you can cross across regions, that it's going to change the points we have now. Except maybe in the case of like Oceania, I don't know. Partially just because cultural and language differences, much less so obviously in the case of some EU, Oceania, and North America. But like, I doubt that suddenly the Japanese data centers are going to become a place where English-speaking players go to find party stuff to do. I could be absolutely wrong. You know, in Party Finder, you don't really need to talk too much if you know what you're doing. But, you know, I don't think that it's going to be an issue.
No, I could be wrong, but that's another difference. So, like, I might be 100% wrong about this, but I remember reading this a long time ago, if I'm rightly. Like, that's another cultural difference, though, with the Japanese players versus the North American and EU players, is that they use the Duty Finder and Party Finder completely different than we do. Like, the Duty Finder is actually for stuff that you complete. Like, they will use Duty Finder for raids.
Yeah, no,
and stuff.
you're right.
So, Party Finder is just for learning. Once you've learned it, they then just start using Duty Finder. Like, who uses Duty Finder in NA?
I mean, yeah, it's
for like savages, nobody, as far as I know.
nobody. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there are definitely cultural differences. There are things that, I mean, language barrier, like we talked about, even though we have some of the auto-translate features and things like that. It's something that I can understand why they're concerned about, but I also do think it would be such a boon if they can get it up and running, because really when you look at other MMOs on the market, there's more flexibility in being able to group with people, but there are still like large-scale regional divides, so EU versus NA and stuff like that, where you can't play with friends over there, or maybe you can be in a guild together, but you can't actually instance into stuff or see each other on maps or things like that. So this would be something that would be a big kind of leap for 14 that other games wouldn't necessarily have as much functionality in currently as they are. That's not to say that like none of them have the ability to do that.
Well, I hate to be swearing in this podcast for some people, but look at World of Warcraft, where you actually have a separate NA and EU client. They're completely different clients, and both require different purchases of the game, and both have their own split subscription. That's crazy compared to 14.
So I
It's
mentioned it
wild.
earlier as a joke, visiting Oceania to experience the lag, but I think that might actually be a thing that prevents people from hopping data centers too, because I don't know about you guys, but I get really used to my ping, my level of lag or lack thereof, and how my abilities work based on server ticks and whatnot. Heading to a different data center, suddenly you're gonna have to get used to a different like rhythm to your rotation.
Yeah.
I've always played on NA, so I'm used to the ping.
Yeah.
So the idea of like moving it to EU and not having ping, why? What's going? Why am I suddenly Ultra Instinct?
I mean,
This is so
I think
good.
the next big step for them with this would be, especially because they've been doing all of these cloud, cloud server tests, right? If they can really get that rolling, and if they can get more flexibility in the programming and structure of this, so that you don't have to like physically go to Ether to, be able to participate in the Party Finder or things like that. If you were able to, just from your home world, go to the Party Finder and click like Aether, click Crystal, click whatever,
Nice.
and then be able to see what listings there were to join in an instance into groups easily based off of that. I think that would really help negate a lot of the problems with people either only trying to make characters or like bringing their characters to camp on those servers that have the raiding or have the role playing or have whatever content. It's not to say that it's not a good thing to kind of have hubs, but you reach a point where there's a lot of people there, and other places it kind of feels
Nobody else
dead.
can go.
Yeah, like nobody else can get on there because then the servers are full or other stuff like that. So I think it would help give an incentive to groups, especially if they made it so that, you could be on an FC anywhere and be a part of that FC.
And you mentioned earlier, having the buffs from your FC, being able to go to your summoning bell would be really great. So if you can access those things from your server, you're not jamming up somebody else's server, and you're able to access all of the stuff that you should have access to as a player.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that would make it too so that there's not just like dead servers, because people are just going to make a character wherever there's room because it doesn't matter as much. And of course there will still be some people who go to specific worlds and stuff like that, but I could see that being a big help. We're still a little ways from it though.
Just as man. Either way, it's nice to see them advancing forward with this sort of thing, so that eventually we're just all kind of one big server.
Yeah.
Now, my big question is, if this does happen and cross-region data center does happen and we're allowed to jump from server to server, can I have one big request, Yoshi-P? Can I get a bigger friends list, because I've been capped for like forever? Please. Even if it's just like you have a friends list and a cross data center friends list where they're both at 200, I'll accept that as well. Just I need more.
I definitely, every time I have like a friend join the game or make a new friend in the game, I'm like, hold on, I have to scroll through here and see whose name I no longer recognize. You, I don't know who you are. Get out of here.
They desperately need to update the friend interface. It's so bad. Like, it's so bad compared to almost any other game I play. The fact that it takes so long to load, the fact that half the time... It really does. Yeah, half the time it's not even showing you actively, like, who really is or isn't online. So then you have to, like, go down and click on them and, like, try to manually refresh their specific character to see if they might be online. The fact, too, that you can't just add somebody. Like, you have to, if they're on your world, then fine. If they're on your world and they're online and you can search their name, then you can add them. But it's not like you can just type in their account tag or something and then just be like, friend, and friend all of their characters on their account, or like block all of their characters on their account, or like they really do need to do an update and refresh of this. And maybe that comes years down the road when they've like worked out a lot of this data travel stuff and figured out how that affects the greater picture of things or updated other systems. But like, we do need more space. We need more flexibility. You should be able to friend somebody even if they're not online. You should be able to friend them in a variety of different ways, or manage those connections better with blocking and stuff like that too, if you need to, for your own privacy and safety.
Yeah, say for safety reasons, it would be nice if you could block the account rather than character, because otherwise they can just keep making characters and pester you that way. Yeah. It would be nice if you could just block the account itself.
I had a friend who that happened to recently, and even if you block that one character, they just delete it, make a new one. Ugh.
Of course, this won't stop people from making the free trial and making multiple accounts using that.
Yep.
But at that point, there's not much Square can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, there's not much Square can do with that, except that you will have to somehow legally get involved with that. Like, I'm sorry.
Legitimate sympathies. Sorry. All right, so that is the lodestone news. We're gonna look beyond the lodestone today into the Aetherverse. Feels weird to say that, but the Aetherverse. So yeah, with Dawn Trail looming ever closer, there are just a bunch of rumors and interviews all over the place, and we're gonna talk about those today because Aetheryte Radio used to be / still is a news podcast. Yay! I think we're gonna start small and go big. So Yoshi-P really wants Final Fantasy XIV to have more crossover content with Final Fantasy VII, but he's waiting for the remakes to wrap up first, which means it'll be in 10 or so years when the game is over. He says, we have many plans and ideas and will continue to incorporate the essence of various titles from the series to serve as a theme park of the FF series, which we've heard for the longest time. Simply put, my personal wish is to approach Final Fantasy VII in earnest, but with the FF7 remake series in development, I don't want to get in their way. I would be very happy if we could do something together after the remake series is completed, and I'd like to ask players to support the FF7 remake series as well so that this can happen as soon as possible. I'm not sure how that works, Yoshi-P, but I get that you're required to say that as a very important person on the Square Enix board. So we actually do already have some 7 nods if you think about it. We have the whole ass gold saucer. This is ass news too.
It continues.
Yes, that's a big reference, and Gold Saucer is, I don't know about you guys, but I'm there all the time.
Yeah. So
There sometimes.
Especially
Sometimes
recently with the
you got the Chocobo racing from 7, so
yeah.
you know.
I was there a bunch recently with the MOG event because it would be like, I'm doing a little work. It's 20 minutes later. I'm doing the jumping puzzle. I'm doing a little work. It's 20 minutes later. It's just like a little cycle. And of course, we have Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. And Biggs and Wedge are themselves a Star Wars reference, and they are found in previous FF titles, very much like Sid. Not as prevalent as Sid, but still kind of like Sid. But still, they are in 7. And I believe Jesse is just straight up a 7 reference, which I actually didn't realize until the other day myself. I was like, wait a minute. And then this article came out. I was like, yeah, I thought of that 2 days ago.
You got a couple of other references as well in it that you've got in. You've got the outfit from the veteran rewards for Cloud. Remember?
Yeah.
You have the wind up minions from FanFest that you could get. Wind up Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa, which are currently purchased on the MOG station. If you didn't go to FanFest. There's it's not exactly a reference, but there's a Fate that kind of drops his sword in one of the Stormblood areas. It's not exactly his sword, but it looks kind of like one. Yeah, Yanxia. Yeah. There's a Fate there that kind of drops a Dark Knight sword that looks a bit like Cloud's sword from 7. There's a few nods to 7 and 14. But I want more.
Was Gold Saucer first in 7? I don't actually know. I thought
it was. It was first in 7.
Okay,
yeah, it was first in 7.
Oh, and you know what? We have the Bee's Knees dance, which I assume is a reference to the honeybee. Honeybee. Yeah.
Honeybee Inn.
Yeah. We've got some. I mean, there has always been a big question in the community, like, when will we get a whole raid series based off of 7? When will we get a whole right? Because 7 is one of the ones.
As Gold Star says in chat right now, the weapons, the like diamond, emerald, ruby, sapphire. I totally forgot about those.
Yeah,
the weapon series.
So
and you're more, as Sandra said, you're more also has the honeybee.
Has the honeybee as well, yeah. We have a lot of references, but I mean, of course, we haven't had like a full-on big collab thing or some kind of, crossover with the 24-man or
oh my god, could we get their dresses?
And I know. And even in the Omega raids, right? I think a lot of people were expecting that we would have seen more iconic bosses or even Sephiroth, but of course,
they had to save him.
In the past, Yoshida-san has said we will not put Sephiroth in the game.
Really? Did they say that?
At least from the hearsay that I've gotten from interviews. Maybe I'm wrong. Somebody can always, correct me in the comments or anything else too. But I believe historically he had kind of a stance that they wouldn't approach that. I'm not sure exactly why, because of how iconic he is, because they felt like there would be so many expectations from players that there'd be no way to live up to them. I don't know. But there seems to have been historically a bit of hesitancy with that, maybe just because of how big of a character. Yeah, like Sandra is saying in chat right now, for those of you watching live or listening after the fact.
I think it's hilarious that they felt that way about Sephiroth and not Kefka.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I think that there are a lot of folks who just through popular culture know about Sephiroth who might not know about Kefka.
You're absolutely right.
You don't really have,
but that's such a shame.
You don't really have. I'm in Europe, but you don't have the nostalgia of older Final Fantasy games before 7 because they weren't a thing. But, no, Europe.
Yeah,
in Europe,
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 was our first Final Fantasy. Nothing before 7 got released until after 7. So, we don't have that nostalgia of going back and going, I remember growing up with that game. So 7 was the big game that hit. And then 6 came with a demo of 10. That's when 6 came out.
Ha!
Yeah, it's wild.
You remember when there was a Final Fantasy game every year?
Oh my gosh. Man.
There was a span of time where there was a Final Fantasy gear like every year or two. It's nuts. It's crazy.
I mean, it's interesting. And
as Sandra said, Sephiroth was also a secret boss in the Kingdom Hearts and Smash Bros.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if someday they do pull this out and we do get a Sephiroth, or we get a Sephiroth phase, or we get something, and then the community is like, oh my gosh, and everybody's losing their mind over it, right? Because that seems like a thing that you would just keep as a wild card in your back pocket at some point to play if you really felt like you just wanted to get a burst of nostalgia cash in from the community kind of quickly.
That's why I figured they were saving him, because like,
yeah,
that's a trump card.
I don't know how I feel about this particular interview. So, I mean, like we were talking about today, there's been a lot of news that's been released recently and a ton of articles that have started to come out. And so it's been good to go over all of this because there's just been like 1,000 little points. And this is one of the ones for me that felt a little bit less critical for me personally, where I was just like, fine.
Yep.
I don't really care. Not that I don't care about like having 7 stuff or anything, but mostly just because like we'll either get some kind of small scale crossover event, or maybe they'll do something like a 24-man or an alliance raid. And that'll be cool if it happens. We've seen it go really well with certain alliance raids, like Evilise. We've seen it be less successful with things like Nier, although the Nier fights and the actual designs were very cool. And the music was banger. Like, so for me, it kind of falls in that lukewarm category where I'm like, okay, cool. If we have to wait 10 years for this collab or whatever, I mean, I guess we will. It'll be cool when it happens. It makes sense that it would show up, but it's not something that like I am banking on for my enjoyment in 14, if that makes sense.
All I know is I hope they wait. I'm happy they wait until the graphics update, because of anyone's ever done the original 7. Remember, I'm not going to say what happens, but that fight, the last fight in the game, with the thing that lasts forever when you're fighting him. Imagine that with the graphical update. It's gonna be so good. If they did Sephiroth, that whole spell would be so good.
I know that the Omega series was very hit or miss for some people. For me, I really enjoyed the theme parky. Oh, here's all of a bunch of villains from different Final Fantasy aspect of that one. I would like to see another raid series like that. I know that's a hot take for some people. Please don't like firebomb my house. But Sephiroth would make a good addition to one of those, I think. I don't know if that would be enough for some people, because like we've been saying, he's very iconic. But that'd be enough for me.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think it makes sense to try and do it after the remake has finished, but considering that we have seen how long this development is and how they're releasing it in all these installments with the supplementary things and all the things in between, we don't really know when that's going to happen per se. And maybe they do something before that if it really seems like it's going to just take a billion years kind of thing.
Expect the last one probably to drop in 2026, 2027. The whole reason why part 2, they already started working on part 3. Part 3 has already started development. Mm-hmm. The main reason was moving over from the PS4 to PS5. That's why they had to have the DLC released, because they were moving assets over. So they were working on assets anyway. So they're like, well, we're working on this. We might as well just release something while we're working on it. So I don't expect a huge DLC drop between the two. I could be wrong, but I don't expect a huge DLC drop between part 2 and part 3 again, like they did with part 1. More the fact that we'll see part 3 probably 2026, 2027. Maybe. It's Square. I don't want to say in absolutes.
We'll see. But yeah, I mean, at least they did acknowledge it, right? Because this has been a question the community has had for a long time. Will we ever have a full-on 7 collab with the remake? Will we have some kind of thing that's going on? So I'm glad that Yoshida-san talked about it and kind of acknowledged what they've been thinking with it. And I guess we'll just have to continue to please look forward to it, you know? At this point, nothing on the horizon.
Yeah, what other FF references, like any game, would you guys want to see that we haven't seen yet?
9.
Yes.
More 9.
A specific part, or we did get Zidane's outfit.
We did get his outfit. I'm playing through 9 for the first time ever right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been streaming it. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
And I am getting more and more concerned every time I play it, because I'm like, this might be my favorite Final Fantasy. At
That's
the very
fine.
least. I know, but I feel like I'm betraying my other favorites, you know? Like, it's creeping up there, though, and no matter what, it definitely is going to stand there at the top of them for me, because I was surprised. I'm not going to lie. I thought people talk so fondly about it, and everybody talks fondly about the Final Fantasies that they love, right? Their favorite ones. You can see why people, like, what makes them kind of shine or light up when they talk about them, and why those games mean so much to them. And it's not like it's unusual for that.
I know I was just complaining about Kefka, but thinking about it, Painter, which is not the name of the class, Pictomancer. I was like, Pictomancer is a straight rip of Realm from 6. So if we're wondering where references might be going this time, we could get some solid 6 in there beyond just like Kefka. And I guess we got the Magitech armor suits. We've had several of those. So I'm
Maggie.
about that.
Oh,
By the way, anyone remember when that was actually going to be a companion at one point? Like, yeah, that you were gonna. They designed the Chocobo companions. Remember where you had the Chocobos you could summon to fight with you. But originally they were going to design it so that you could have a Magitech armor fight with you as well. If I'm rightly, I think that's one of the reasons why that character got that armor got like a character piece, because that was going to be your armor that joined you in battle. Like,
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
It paired with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then that all got dropped.
But enough about references. I can't believe we went so long on those. Yes, I can. We are us. The next big article, unless anybody had anything else to say about that.
No, I'm good.
All right.
7 Remake coming at some point, collab in Final Fantasy 14 after it's finished.
TLDR.
And of course, we need Strangers of Paradise with Jack in at some point.
All right.
We need
Cosmic Exploration. We got a little bit more news on that, which is cool because when they first told us about it, they were like, yeah, you're going to space. And we were like, why? Well, I was like, why? I guess some people were probably excited about it. So what Yoshida has said is, I don't really want to give an impression of how the content will be. Still, why? But in terms of this content, it's similar to Ishgardian Restoration in the respect that everyone is working towards a target together on the same world. So that's going to be cool. It says, it's worth noting that Cosmic Exploration won't replace or succeed Island Sanctuary, as the latter will still enjoy updates based on player feedback. So I think it's cool to know what sort of content we are getting in that respect. And also it's cool to know that Island Sanctuary is still going to get updates. So like they are...
I am so glad.
Yeah, they're separate entities entirely.
Add co-op.
Yeah, I mean, like...
Island Sanctuary.
I would love if they...
Co-op.
I would love if they put in some kind of co-op feature. I would love if they, like, there's, as we've talked about on the podcast before, there's so much more they could have done with Island Sanctuary. And it seems like there was so much more that originally was in scope for it as well. And I think that with that kind of lackluster little capstone quest and the, like, it's really over, it kind of left people feeling like that was it. And like, even though there are good things that you can farm from it, there's, good stuff that you can get that's sellable. It really feels like it has so much potential that just like didn't get completely fulfilled. So I'm so relieved to hear Yoshida-san talk about this, because it really felt like that was them just kind of being like, no, really, we're not going to touch it again. So to actually hear him say like, hey, yeah, if players have additional feedback and if people still want, more and, things like that, we will still be updating this game mode in addition to this new thing that's coming, which is awesome.
Yeah. But really, this article is more about cosmic exploration. Asgardian Restoration was an interesting addition to the game. I think it was a good one, ? I did participate. Did you guys do this at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did it out of spite.
Out of spite? What do you mean?
Okay. I didn't really care about Ishgardian Restoration for the first... There was 3, right? There was 3 of them, right, that went on, like, in the different
phases?
rankings.
I couldn't tell you. I think you're right.
I think it was free. I can't remember the top of my head how many it was, but on the first one, like I just did it because I wanted to participate and I wanted the title, Beatus or whatever, because I didn't really care about the title. I just kind of wanted it. Like I just wanted to be part of it. And then on the second time, I was like, you know what? I'll participate. I don't need the title again. I've got it. And I saw people shouting, going, "Haha! I'm going for the Saint title so that other people can't get the Saint title to make it rarer. That's what I'm doing." And I'm like, "No, you're not doing that." So I spent like 48 hours like fishing constantly so that I could steal the title from them so that they couldn't stop other people from getting the title. So I'm like sat there like just going mad on stream from fishing 24 hours a day just so that I could stop other people from getting the title so that they could stop other people from getting the title. I'm like, I'm getting that Saint just so that you can't have it. just so that you can't have 2 Saint titles. Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Good.
I think I ended up with 1.4 million points for fishing. I think it was something stupid like that.
Ooh.
I had to end up. I had to look into macros for fishing so I could learn when the amount of points. Like this fish that gives the most points, it goes between 6 and 8.5 seconds.
That stuff is.
So
a
I've had the
science.
macro. So I had the macro like, okay, so that you can catch it now. Okay, reel it in. So I had to sit there forever. But I got the Saint title.
I did not get the Saint
so that
title.
they
I didn't
couldn't.
even try for it because I'm not that hardcore of a crafter, and I felt like people who actually give a damn about crafting ought to have that one. I did accidentally get the like tier under it because I happened to turn in stuff in alchemy, and I guess people weren't doing alchemy, so I grabbed the top 10 one from that one. It was top 10 or top 100? Not sure. It might have been top 100.
Top 100.
Yeah.
Because the Saint was the top 13. I think
There
it
you
was,
go.
and I was like
Then
11.
Then it was top 100. Grab that accidentally. Just kind of, oh, cool. Sure. Great. Thanks. Yay. It was all right content. Like I said, I'm not a hardcore crafter. I kind of hope that maybe they incorporate things that aren't crafting into this one, but I could see them very easily not. I honestly like the replacement fates that they have in the housing area now, the fets.
Yeah, the festivals and things.
Yeah, I think they're more fun.
Yeah, I mean,
Tycat
They're
says
entirely different.
Tycat said bring back Hamlets, which I remember. I think were like crafting fates.
Yeah, we were
Yes.
talking about that a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, and
I
honestly,
still feel like my I still feel like my idea would be cool. Where like, imagine like there's like not fates, but imagine if they're like crafting fates inside the main city. Say you're in Oldar, and then a crafting fate pops up on like the armor and like weapons NPC, where he's like, for some reason, loads of people have decided to buy leather trousers, and we're out of leather trousers. We've got all the ingredients for like the next 15 minutes. Do you mind crafting these leather trousers for us so that we can sell them?
That'd be
And then
cute.
it's like a little crafting, like different like shops had a spike of sales in specific armors or whatever, or foods, and then they will give you like the ingredients to craft it, like in like some of the
maybe at
quests
the
that give you all the
end,
basic.
It's got a discount on the item or something because there's so many now.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they could do something like that with like the little fates. I mean, Ishgardian Restoration, I think, had some really good points. I think that the alternate route to be able to level gatherers was really helpful, and it still is really helpful. Like, I've gone in since the main action of Ishgardian Restoration kind of completed to do that, and to level things up that way. I think the rewards were also quite good because a lot of them still to this day you can even, farm, sell the dyes, all that kind of stuff. The sort of fates that they ended up doing in that zone, all of that I think did give like a great kind of way to get involved or jump into crafting and gathering if you hadn't done a lot of it before, and to also get a little bit more, out of your time spent in it so that you
Also,
could
you got a laser
power
gun
level.
for gathering.
And yes, but that's fun and that's good and that's a good time. But I do agree with a lot of the feedback about things like the leaderboards and stuff like that. With it being such a limited time window, and also with things like bots and all that kind of stuff just being so, like, how do you measure up as a human being against those kinds of things, or against players who may not even get 2 hours of sleep every night because they're just going so hard on this thing? Like, I think even back in the day when we did our Ishgardian Restoration episode, we talked about that with some folks that had, gone really hard on it and who had said afterwards that they were like, I would never do this again. It was really hard on me, and I don't feel like it was all that fun for just the sheer amount of hours that I had to put into it, which I think is really valid feedback. So I'd like to see them do something a little bit different than that. But
I hate to say it, but it's been sorry, I hate to say it, but it's been long enough that like when it first happened, I was like, man, I'll never ever do this again. I'm never going to do this grind again. Never. And now it's been several years. I'm like,
you into thinking it's okay now.
It's been long enough. I'll do it again, I guess. Like I'm used to it. I've got my gacha game where I have to do that like every couple of months, basically. So like if I have to do it every couple of years in an MMO, I think my gacha game has like bullied me into it. So
I think I would prefer to see them do something else that's just a little bit less self-destructive for players. Be that, within this window, earn so many points and you'll get this title unlocked, or something where, sure, maybe there could be a leaderboard, but that leaderboard continues to rotate or change. Or, if people reach a certain threshold by whatever amount of time contributing to the effort, or if they craft like a really difficult to craft item or something, their name gets added to some kind of memorial list, or or something like that,
because the item has killed them.
Yeah, because it's killed them. I think that could be fun. But I hope that they evolve a bit of this kind of concept, coming into something like this cosmic exploration that Yoshida-san is talking about. Hearing the comparison to Ishgardian Restoration was a little surprising, because I really was not under the impression that they were looking to do another like crafter specific alone one from kind of the tiny little tidbits that we had gotten. So it does make me wonder if we're going to see something that might be a little bit different, right? Like, how cool would it be if you can go out to these planets and things and you actually have to like go as a party, and there might be combat classes that have to like control or fight off waves, or you have to kill certain mobs, right? Yes, like Hamlet, right? You have to kill certain mobs maybe and get materials that you then pass to your crafters, who then are trying to craft things within this window. And like, there's just so much cool stuff they could do with it. Even if you had to, like, as you progressed through, craft different things to unlock different passages along the way, or build up a camp, or I hope that it's something like that allows both sides to kind of come in and get something and participate no matter what you're kind of engaging on, and that it's not just so specific to one or the other. We'll see, though. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I hope they... Just beating a dead horse here, but I hope they add something combat related, or it's not just one thing over and over again with their crafting, Like, don't let people turn the same item in for every single turn in, or let them do that, but also make them have to go run like 3 dungeons or something. Break it up. Don't have it just be that same monotony. Or even just like, I don't know, have all of the crafting classes, and then maybe all of the war and magic classes have something they can do also. Mm-hmm. Even if it's separated, having something in there for the other classes to do would be cool. I get that, like, there's not a lot of, I say there's not a lot, there's a crap ton of crafter content at this point. I get that they probably want crafter specific content, but man, I think it would be just cool and fun to mix them together again. Hamlet was one of the most fun things in 1.0. Partially because it was one of the only things to do, but also because it was legitimately fun to like try and figure out these weird combos of, well, we take 3 healers and a tank, but we also need a fisherman and 2 botanists and a miner, and it just like the combos were interesting. All right, do you guys like prefer Ishgardian Restoration over Island Sanctuary, or just as an afterthought?
I think I much preferred Ishgardian Restoration over Island Sanctuary after how it ended. I was more hyped for Island Sanctuary, but I thought it was more disappointing as it came out than Ishgard Restoration.
I wouldn't disagree. It's tough because I I kind of very erratically engaged with Ishgardian Restoration. I sort of knew there was no way I was going to hit those big thresholds for things like the titles, even though I would have liked to have some of those titles. But at the time, I really was brand new to like crafting and gathering and barely understood anything about it. And I have more knowledge now, but not, I'm still not one of the like hardcore crafter gatherers. And to me, it felt a little bit overwhelming to try and angle for those goals. But things like the diadem area, or even just kind of generally contributing and watching as it kind of built up, all of that I found very enjoyable, and I feel like it had a good kind of longer term use and sustenance, and I think some of the additional lore and story and stuff that we even got with Ishgardian Restoration was really great. There's some great little follow-up, pieces there about Ishgard. I think my only major regret was that a lot of the city itself and like the slums outside of the instance didn't get visually updated or built up.
For the
which
broom.
I know, I really was hoping that we would see that on the map reflected. So that might have been one of the areas where I was kind of like, eh. But with Island Sanctuary, it's tough because I do think I like the premise of Island Sanctuary more. I like the concept of it. I like the genre of game that it's based on more. I like the little features of it in theory, the, exploration and gathering and the cultivating of crops and the tending of like a herd. I like all of that stuff more, that kind of farm simulator. But the way that it was executed felt perhaps like the most simplified and lackluster version of the concept. And because of that, it feels even less engaging in a lot of ways. And I'm not a huge fan of the workshop minigame. I felt like the Moogle cards were kind of more, even though they were more confusing to me, I felt like they were more interesting at least than the workshop minigame, which really oftentimes feels like one of the few things that I go in and interact with in the farm sim that I want to be playing, other than just like gathering some stuff up. So I really wish that some of the original vision had been more intact for it. They talked about being able to like even go to other people's islands initially and like trade goods with them or like buy stuff from their market board. Like there was this mention of it that I vaguely remember that it just seems like never happened. And I think in my head I had kind of envisioned like, oh, there'll be all these cool rare things that you can grow or unlock or find or creatures, and you could trade those goods back and forth.
That
And
would have been cool.
like there's so much stuff that I just thought would be really interesting. A lot of things you'd be able to build, put together, create, craft, that just didn't happen. And so as it is, I kind of feel like Island Sanctuary ultimately felt like it was more engaging, but I like the idea. Ishgard Restoration feels like it was ultimately more like useful for practical stuff, and Island Sanctuary I like better as a concept.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I feel like both Yoshi-P and the player base built up Island Sanctuary a bit too much, and like they wouldn't really talk about it for the longest time. It was like, "Whoa, what is this?" Ooh, well, like, so we kind of built up what we hoped and expected for it, especially considering all the different other farming simulators and all that exist. So we kind of built up what we were expecting and because they kept teasing it and not actually announcing anything until later on. Well, I felt like Ishgard Restoration, they kind of just dropped it. They kind of like, this is what you're doing. This is what's happening. So there was no build up for it. It was just like, you'll be doing this. That's cool. And Island Sanctuary, might be able to do this. Ooh, we might be. There was a build up, and the build up didn't play out properly. But as you said, I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, as you said, I feel like I prefer the concept of Island Sanctuary, but in actual features, Island Sanctuary wins. Ishgard wins by actual playability.
I think I like what we got out of Island Sanctuary more as far as like final rewards. I like the multiplayer aspect of Ishgard more because I play an MMO to play with other people. Technically, you're not still really playing with anybody else, but all those people are around. And man, the conversations you could see in Ishgard and in the Diadem especially were just wacky. They're fun and strange and weird and very much a reflection of how crazy this community can be sometimes. I think something that we really haven't talked about as far as I almost said never mind. Island Sanctuary is the not quite housing aspect of it. It did a little bit of niche filling for people who haven't been able to get a house. And honestly, the way that you put down furniture, I think, is superior to actual housing currently. Both of them still need some work, but the fact that you get one item and you copy that item as many times as you want to place that furniture is very nice, especially when you're talking about an expensive item or one that's hard to get. It also helps you to keep down your storage issues. So I would like to see them take that, maybe move it into regular housing. So yeah, that's how I feel. I think we can move on at this point.
Yeah. We'll have to see what cosmic exploration actually brings. They're still holding it kind of close to their chest, but the fact that, Yoshida likened it to Ishgardian Restoration, definitely worth noting as we kind of try to formulate what it could be.
Yeah. So there was a lot of drama. Well, not really, but there was some drama over this next bit. The Hydaelyn-Zodiark arc skip, the possibility of one, that is. So Yoshi-P stated in multiple millions of places that they are aware of the struggle that it takes to get through the storyline. And let's just note here that story skips by expansion already exist. That's a thing you can do. Many people have many varying opinions on that, whether it's good or not. I think for a first character is a terrible idea, especially because our story is so friggin' good. For a second character, yeah, do it. Well, for a third character, yeah, do it. I played through the whole story at least 2.5 times, and it was worth it. All those little reminders of what the heck was happening at the beginning of the story were fun. Anywho, this quote from him says, "We have been making preparations for those who want to skip the story between 2.0 and 6.0, collectively referred to as the Hydaelyn-Zodiark saga, and instead begin from Newfound Adventure saga, which it'll be 7.0 onward. That started in... Oh, no, I was wrong. That started in 6.1 update. So it's not 7.0. It starts with 6.1 and all of the voidy things. With the summary of the story and lore, as well as features to introduce key characters." So here he's basically saying they were thinking about doing a skip up to the middle of 6X, so 6.1 onward.
And basically skip till the end of till after the Zodiac arc. Yeah. Skip to the end, to the new.
They mentioned the feature to introduce characters, which I assume they're talking about the codex, unless they're trying to introduce something else, in which case, which this? But it's probably the codex. And then people were in an uproar over it. Some people were in an uproar over it. How could you? That's a terrible idea. And like, I get it, but also, it's their prerogative.
Yeah, I don't... It's difficult, right? Because the story of Final Fantasy XIV is one of its most defining and praised traits of the game. And rightfully so. I mean, it's not to say that it's flawless, and it's not to say that there aren't, pacing issues or things like that, or portions of the story that some people liked generally more than others, or all kinds of things, right? There are. But it is truly a phenomenal RPG story within an MMO. And oftentimes in the past in MMOs, that's an aspect that really struggles, especially over time in a game. How they create an overarching story, how they give meaning and weight to all the chapters of it, how they tie that together. So it is one of the intrinsic major foundational things of 14 as an MMO, and because of that, and because of the amount of attention and care that goes into it, a lot of the community feels very strongly about it, and rightfully so, because it's a good story. And like, I am of the exact same opinion. I'm like, if you ask me my opinion, I'm going to tell you, play the whole story, even if it's long, enjoy it. It's worth it. You're going to want to know it. It'll make the rest of the game better. But I also acknowledge that not every player has that mentality. Not every player plays an MMO for the story, and that every player, as people in this world who have their own agency, have the right to make their own choices about how they engage engage with games. I know, it's a wild concept.
What?
And so this kind of thing was not something that caught me off guard because, yeah, at some point they will do this. Whether it's now, whether it's Dawn Trail, whether it's whenever, at some point they will put this in. I have no doubt. Every MMO at some point has to create a new onboarding point for players because you want players to come in with your new stuff and not just be experiencing the old stuff or the stuff that, you know, might feature a lot of old systems or be 10 plus years old and not have, you know, your peak of cinematics and your storytelling and your evolution of what the game offers now. And it's a lot to ask for players to go through it just constantly increasing backlog of story and game. So I'm not surprised by this. I think they will need to do it at some point, and I was a little surprised by the 6.1 timing.
Yeah, it's kind of...
Yeah, right? But I feel like it indicates that this Void arc is not so
You can't call it
side questy. I'm sorry, that this newfound adventure that we had that took us
Trial
into the
quest.
void, the trial quest, I think it just shows that it is not so inconsequential, perhaps, and that it may be playing a major fundamental role in future story, which is why they want people to start here, right? Meeting Zero, doing this stuff. Theoretically, in the next 10 years of story, it makes sense that we are going back and that that's going to be a thing. So to me, that's the reason why they would start it at 6.1 as opposed to at Dawn Trail.
Chat mentioned that there was a concern that there might be snobbery over who had skipped the first arc and who hadn't. And honestly, there's already that kind of snobbery. If you've skipped cutscenes ever, you're going to run into people who are like, oh, it's so good. Why would you do that? And I do that to my friends already as a joke. Because I do have some friends that are like, nope, I'm going through. And it's like, but it's so good.
I do feel like if they're going to do this story skip, 7.0 is probably one of the best chances that they're going to ever have for a while. Because as they've said, it's going to be a new saga. It's a completely new saga. And not only that, but you also have a completely new player base coming in with the Xbox players coming over with 7.0. So if you're going to do anything like this, this is probably one of the best times so that the people that play on Xbox don't have to do like 500 hours of playtime before they can play with their friends.
So all of this to say... go ahead.
And I would be like against it more if it wasn't for the fact that New Game Plus already exists. So they can skip to 6.1. And then if they want to go back and experience the story, they can easily just use New Game Plus to go and experience the stuff that they've missed.
So there's been some panic in chat over this already. But all of this to say, nothing is in the works anytime soon for a skip. For the story, we are not currently planning any kind of skip feature, Yoshida said. This is something I'm constantly torn about, and we have already finished implementing a feature that allows players to learn about the story setting and characters, even when they skip story, like via expansion skips. Again, probably talking about the codex. So yes, we did talk about the idea of the skip, but it is not currently happening. Yoshi-P said it is not a thing that they are doing at this point in time.
We had sort of dueling interviews here. We should clarify that, like, from different sources and different places. And this is a big thing with all of these interviews to keep in mind, that sometimes in one interview, how something is interpreted, contextualized, or translated can then later be clarified or given additional context or entirely different meaning from another interview. So there was a lot of back and forth. Sorry, go ahead, Chille.
I mean, in my opinion, what would be cool is if you were installing it for the first time, maybe like they have a video that you can like, do you want to watch an abridged version of the story while the game installs? Or something like that. I think that would be pretty cool. Like an abridged.
I would just like to watch that.
Yeah. Because wasn't there like a with 2.0, like a abridged like movie of what happened in 1.0, at least some of it.
Was there?
I think so.
I've never seen such a thing. I would like for it to exist. It really ought to exist, but I've never seen such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that I really genuinely can see this being an engaging and immersive experience, especially because, I mean, so we have these two interviews, right? And on one hand, we had the one that clarified that said, no, we're not going to implement this. But on the other hand, we have Yoshida specifically saying, we have thought about this in detail, and we have even determined where we would set the starting point with that 6.1, right? So of course, while this is something that, maybe we see in the next couple years, maybe we see a year after Dawn Trail is done, maybe we see 5 years from now, we don't know. We have no idea. But I feel like for this kind of, you jump in at the 6.1 starting point, right? I do feel like they would have to do something more than just, hi, welcome to Final Fantasy. Here's the unending codex. You loaded into the game and it popped up. Now read 20 pages about all the characters you don't know anything about. And also this written story summary that we did of the Hydaelyn-Zodiark arc. To me, while I can see them doing that, because I do think that sometimes 14, from its history and tradition of JRPGs, leans a little too heavily into text-based communication. I think that in order to really onboard players, you would have to give some kind of story summary video. You would have to have some kind of new player cinematic that takes you through this stuff, that gives you some kind of context for where you're starting in 6.1, that there just would have to be, because otherwise, if it is something where you skip specifically the Hydaelyn-Zodiark arc, and if, like he cited, 6.1 really would be the starting point for this, were it to be something that ever does become more than just something they're talking about. To me, it's you would need to have some context for players, as well as just something that gets them involved or gives them some kind of stakes leading into an arc like this, where you're coming off of the highest action we've had in the game, saving the whole universe. You don't ever want to be the person that's coming in after the fact that's great job saving the whole world. You did that off screen. Cool. Now learn about how to, you know what I mean? There would have to be something that they would do that would give you more context and make you come into it feeling like you had momentum of your own as a player. So maybe when they actually implement this, there is some different starting point. Maybe there is a whole alternate tutorial that they take you through. Maybe there's a whole cinematic that plays. Maybe there's, who knows? All MMOs get to the point where they have to answer this question. ESO completely redid its new player experience. Guild Wars 2 has been tailoring and redefining things. WoW has multiple points where you can jump into the story, and they've streamlined the process. So it's not something where this is uncommon, and I'm sure that this is something that they will implement one day. I said, they will at some point.
Just have that symptom at some point. So Yoshi-P wrapped up by saying, I'm concerned that if the globally acclaimed storyline, he didn't say that was me, can be skipped through a function, the value of the FF14 game itself will be diminished. So far, 14 has been able to continue to grow while keeping the story as the main focus. So he and the rest of the team are aware of the story and how well loved it is, and how much people might be missing out on if they skip through. Not to honk their own horns, but that basically sums that up. There was talk about it. If you see anything about it, it's not currently happening. Don't freak out. Something else to freak out over. Just kidding. Don't freak out over this either. And it's actually another case of what Rook was talking about earlier, about one translation not quite lining up with another translation. Quote unquote, plans to make FF14 less stress-free. So this mostly came from Famitsu's interview with Shota Shimoda of Right Flyer Studios and Yoshi-P. So we're just going to read through this real quick. Please do not panic. Please do not panic. Yoshida said, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, for context, this was another interview that then had a lot of follow-up post, clarification, translation, nuance, all kinds of stuff. So we'll start with where it started, we'll work through it, and we'll try to give the picture that, as we understand it of what this is.
Don't freak out. We'll get to the end. The end is fine. Yoshida said, I have once again realized that we must continue to provide players with surprises that go beyond their imaginations. In that sense, I actually have some regrets. As we continue to operate FF14, we have tried to make it more comfortable and stress-free, for players to enjoy. And when I think back on the past 10 years, I think we may have gone a bit too far in that regard. Famitsu says, "What do you mean?" Yoshida says, "Games are always accompanied by stress, but dealing with it is extremely difficult." And then Shimoda, the other person there, said, "I feel that very much." Yoshida said, "For example, if it's a side-scrolling action game and there aren't even any holes where you'll miss if you fall, then of course there won't be any stress. But at the same time, it loses its fun. So in terms of FF14, I would like to return to this part." This is a little bit wonky in the translation, but I would like to return to this part in a little bit in the future, meaning he would like to add that little extra bit of complexity to something in the game to make it a little quote unquote less stressful. Wow. If we do that, I think we'll be able to provide everyone with a challenge. Word challenge here, not difficulty, challenge. In a better sense than ever. This is also a challenge for the next 10 years, and I'm currently designing various games, and it's quite fun. Lol. However, some people may think, why would you do that? So that's more just about him having a lot on his plate. So because of the way that this was translated in some media, the interview, by the way, that we are reading is the Google translation.
So we were in the middle of our discussion about the interview with Yoshida-san, where he talked about the idea of challenge or the kind of nuances of game design that make it interesting or engaging, and how the community interpreted this in two very different ways, partially because of translation stuff about whether or not this meant that he was saying we have made the game too easy and will increase the difficulty, or if there was another context for it. So Zen, do you want to pick up where we left off?
Sure, what's up?
Oh, you're good. I'm sorry. I just
apparently dying. Oh yeah, so we were about where so a lot of people just sort of stopped reading the interview at the portion that I just read and stopped reading it. But there's more after that. And some people came forward and were like, "Hey, you guys, this is not all of the interview," or some people were just straight up like, "That's not really correctly translated," which we really do have to be quite careful of in the case of Japanese, because there's just so much like nuance that Google is never going to pick up. So in fact, mere paragraphs below, Yoshi-P outright says that his thoughts did not mean that he wanted to make the game more difficult. He said, "If the game changes without anyone saying anything, the players will be disappointed. Moreover, I'm not talking about increasing the difficulty. This is a Google Translate, but it is a sentence that exists in this interview. Therefore, we need to provide a thorough explanation and communicate with them by saying, please try it out. After that, please give us feedback. As I keep repeating this, I realize once again that there is no answer or goal." So he's realizing that he's rambling. But basically what's happening here is he's saying that he wants to put, I'm going to say complications again, but a challenge, an interesting edge might even be a more even removed way to say it. It's just some interest back in the game that we are lacking now. That doesn't necessarily mean that the game will increase with difficulty. I
would like to see a bit of difficulty increase, though, to be honest.
I would too, I won't lie.
Not me, same.
Like, I'm not talking, okay, I'm not talking like end-game rating. I feel like Savage, Ultimate, like they seem to be on a nice level right now. And I even think that some of the dungeons are kind of decent, like they're not the worst. Like, you're supposed to be grinding them daily. Like, I don't want them to be super challenging. Like, I don't think they need to be super difficult. Like, I feel like you're grinding them daily. They don't have to be like, but I feel like Alliance raids should be buffed a little bit. I feel like there should be a bit more of a challenge in Alliance raids.
You know what's funny is like morning of Alliance raids are actually challenging. That first Aglaya raid, like first going through and not knowing what you're doing, that was a fun challenge. Every time after maybe like the first week when everybody knows what's going on and you're already racing through the dungeon, like already pushing past mechanics, I don't know if that there's a way that they can adjust for that, but it's really a shame. Having that same like week 1 feel throughout maybe 3 months of the 24-man would be great. I don't know how they're going to do that, but it would be great. My example that I wanted to use actually was dungeons. Right now, dungeons are freaking wall-to-wall pulls with very little interest at all. Sometimes maybe they'll have like little lore points, and that's cool and all, but that's not a puzzle. That is just read this and we'll tell you a cool thing. I want a dungeon with a puzzle in it, like even if it's a simple puzzle like the colored coral in Sestasha, the very first dungeon. You have to go in that side room, read a thing, and realize that like blue, green, and red are spelled weird, and then realize later on when you get further in the dungeon that there's a blue, green, and a red coral. Maybe I should click the one that was in this weird note. Yay, puzzle solved! Just little things like that. Or the lights in Totodrak, which they took out.
I know.
Out of all the things they took out of Totodrak. Karn?
Or the Temple of Corn, where you had to do the 2 bright symbols to make the door open. Otherwise, otherwise you didn't get the secret chest.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, I don't mind when it comes to challenging. That's fine. I don't mind that, but I don't want them to just make numbers harder. Like, I don't want the enemies to have make it more challenging by having enemies have bigger numbers.
The trash in the dungeons now is less complicated. The trash is less complicated now than it was in previous dungeons. What we have now is a bunch of mobs that do nothing but white swing. And then maybe like half of the mobs have 1, maybe 2 AoEs that they do. Whereas like if you look at previous dungeons prior to the adjustments for trusts, there were some mobs had difficult AoEs that you had to pay attention to, or even stun. Like if we look back to twinning, there are those guys in there that berserk. And once they have berserked, they start chunking the heck out of your tank. We don't get a whole lot of that anymore, and it's a shame. And it's not hard. It's just a teeny little layer of extra complication that keeps your brain from going dead while you are doing dungeons every day, 4 months to get tomes.
I agree. This is a tricky one because I feel like, and I don't know within the context and other things as well, right? I feel like challenge versus difficulty, which is even something that you highlighted in the outline today, Zanidra. Difficulty oftentimes in MMOs has a very specific connotation regarding the scaling difficulty of different types of content, the tiers of content, right? Savage, extreme, ultimate. And when you talk about difficulty, there is, just like you brought up, Chille, this sense of numerical stuff, of optimization of class, of those sorts of things that I think perhaps differentiate between something like difficulty versus something like challenge, where yes, there might be decision making that has to happen, there might be responsiveness that has to happen, creativity of thought. I'm even just thinking about diversity of mechanics, like how we used to have the snowball fight, the big Yeti, and you had to figure out, like as a tank, if I angle him at these things, it makes them get bigger, and then we can hit them, and then it hits him, and it causes a break, or a variety of different kinds of content responsiveness, decision-making, surprise, puzzles. There are definitely elements of that. And of course, just like anything, once you learn them, once you understand them, it's not like that's something that every single time is just going to be throwing you such a curveball. But I do think there are ways to kind of differentiate it, and I think that in particular, difficulty carries a very heavy connotation, where we see, as we saw online even, discussions of very emotional discussions about like, I don't want the game to be harder. I don't want it to be more difficult. I want to have fun when I do something, or I don't want this, or I don't want that. Or what if they're, going to try and tell people that they're not good enough to clear a dungeon now because of how hard they make it. Like, I'm sure he was very coy and danced around this word because of exactly that, that weight that difficulty carries. I do think there's some overlap of this, though, right? Like we've talked about with dungeons, where we start to feel like they're getting very, not for everybody, but at least from my perspective, perhaps from Zen's perspective, that like, boy, I do miss when expert roulette, I actually had to like adjust to a lot of things on the fly, or if somebody did a big poll, I was like, oh, I know in this one it's really spicy, so I've got to make sure I do all this stuff, or I help out with this, or I use my cooldowns, or I do think there's some point where there is an overlap between these two, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where like by making things more challenging, by creating those holes in a platformer, right? Yes, there is a threat of failure, but that it doesn't necessarily need to be something that goes full into difficulty like Savage, etc. Sorry, go ahead, Zen.
No, absolutely. Please finish your thought. So I did a dungeon the other day. I forget what it's called. It's the one where you go into what's his face's memory. One of the recent ones. Most recent one? Lunar Subterrane.
Yeah.
So I did that one on Healer with a brand new person. They let us know they were brand new. Cool. I love when people do that. There's no shame in being brand new. They didn't ask for explanations or anything. They didn't need them because the dungeons are so easy, even the bosses. They stood in everything. They did not die. I healed them, obviously, but like they didn't understand the fight. They stood in everything. It did not kill them. That's how easy the dungeons are now. There should be some sort of honestly punishment for not doing mechanics correctly. It's not to make people feel bad about like their play style. It's so that you can get better at your job or feel a sense of accomplishment of having done even the tiniest little mechanic correctly. Doing those little things do give you just that itty bitty bit of like chemical happiness burst. Like, I did that thing. It's a little bit hard. I did it right. Yeah. And just like face rolling through a whole dungeon and not getting it and not caring because it doesn't matter is boring. What were you gonna say, Chille?
I was gonna say you can die from that fight. At least the first boss, because he gives doom. So if the white mage doesn't use a Suna or doesn't have it on the bar, or scholar or astro or sage.
I mean, yeah, and that's also something too where it's just like that's more of a heal awareness, right? Where you're just like, oh, there's the one thing that I use my Asuna for. So I guess it's not like I would say that, the mobs have been given more interesting mechanics, or that we're having to use stuns more tactfully, or that you have to learn the pacing of something, or the in and outs of certain creatures pulled into some of the trash where you're like, oh, I need to go in for that or out for that, or I need to watch out or position this, or I need to move these to the wall, or we need to burn these fast, or prioritize a final sting enemy type, or we need to...
Yeah, little things like that are fun.
Yeah,
and
I
even
agree.
the difference between Lunar Subterrane and something like Dead Ends. Dead Ends second? I think it's the first boss with the like weird, bubbly, corrupted guy. And he has like the wind mechanic where it pushes the AoEs. That is an interesting little layer of challenge. It's not really more difficult. You just have to have your eyes open and not be asleep.
Now you talk about bees, so now I'm having flashbacks to the old wasp, because it wasn't a bee, it was a wasp, if I'm right. People kept calling it a bee.
Wisp. W-E-S-P-E.
The wasps.
Yeah, the wasps. No, I think they are spelled like wesps.
Wesp.
But they are wasps.
Wesps.
Like they look like a wasp, but yeah.
I'm getting flashbacks to remember the demon wall where the wesps would appear and then one shot you.
Oh, those are the net thingies.
Yeah. I think
the
there really are ways for them to keep expanding this, as well as even just like collaborative navigation mechanics. Like you brought up, Zen, we talked about how perhaps, we don't know for sure, but perhaps trusts have affected some of this, where some of the mechanical design has to anticipate for artificial kind of navigation versus human response, and the faster kind of processing time and flexibility of thought that people are capable of, in a sense. Not to say that AI isn't capable of that, though, because it is. Like
people in theory. We'll add in theory.
Yeah, in theory. And again, there's a huge range of human performance and fallibility, which is part of what makes it fun to me. If you have something like that pops up, like, just because you might have a handful of people that like never get the mechanic and are constantly causing issues doesn't mean that you should remove all of that until every single person at the lowest denominator can just go through something without having to engage with active thought.
You're going to lose your highest denominator. They're going to go, this isn't fun, I'm outie.
And having challenges that people can work on together and navigate together is important.
To throw it back to Totorak also, like, I get that people hated that GUI floor, and I get that they took it out. for the NPCs following along in trust. But like, why did you take out the light orbs? That is something that one person can do by yourself. You don't need the NPCs to understand how to do that. That was an interesting little mechanic that they were scattered around. I guess it was because they take out one of the paths. There's just one path now.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well,
why
they've made it all
change
very
that?
linear.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when lately
doesn't
I've been
hurt
doing.
trusts.
I know, right? Like
Ugh.
lately I've been doing some. I mean, I did MDI casting and I've done a lot of Mythic Plus stuff for WoW over the last year with community events and other things too. And part of what I really like about WoW Dungeons is the fact that this idea of routing is very much a part of the conversation. Now, that's not to say that dungeons like OG Totorak and stuff weren't kind of confusing and had like a lot of weird backtrack stuff and issues that could cause hangups for groups and pressure on tanks. But to say that you could have dungeon design that can be linear or can be open, and that may or may not have multiple viable paths or strategies through the same map is interesting. Yeah. Routing is used as a term of, what are the routes that different teams are running in dungeons? So which bosses are they doing in what order? What pathway are they taking? What trash mobs or areas are they navigating along the way? That's part of sort of more of the language of dungeons in World of Warcraft. And that's something that I also think that in 14 could add more variety to our dungeons. It doesn't have to be a convoluted, confusing thing that has a million dead ends and only one viable route once you figure it out. It can be a dungeon that's big and open, and it says, hey, there are 4 bosses you need to find and kill before the dungeon is done, or 3, and then it'll route you to the last one or whatever. Like, so go through, explore, and take different routes for these different bosses. Another just example of how you can add more diversity and challenge. Variant dungeons. I honestly think variant dungeons are really fun and have a lot of good examples of
puzzles
challenge
and
versus difficulty. Yeah.
I mean, I guess.
How about this? Talking about stuff like challenge and difficulty and the old dungeons. How about this? What if they brought back some of the old dungeons and revamp them for now, but make it so that they're separate from make them Unreal dungeons, and make it so that bring the old map back to how it was, and because it doesn't have to be based on trusts, you can just keep it as it is.
Has to be Unreal unless they make it harder, in which case I would be interested, because what the heck?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, Unreal is just the old content, but synced up to current level. There's no extra difficulty.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, dungeons aren't Unreal. So like, I feel like if they wanted to put that title on, they'd make them. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
No, some of the dungeons were a little bit difficult when they first came out, when you're minimum eye level and it was your first time going in. Like, if they make it so the Unreal is, because you're scaled down for Unreal, you're not over the iron level. So if they make it so that the dungeons are Unreal, bump up the challenge a little bit, I feel like it could be interesting.
Yeah, I agree. And I honestly was really glad to see him talk about this. I think this is kind of a lot of the trend of many of these things that we've started to see coming out in interviews. And there have been some other smaller tidbits, things where they were talking about the hats and other stuff like that, that we didn't cover specifically in the talk today. But it's something that I think there's been a lot of conversation about things like this in the community, but not much actual official acknowledgement of these things, right? And now we don't have interviews talking about like the constraints of the 2-minute window and all this other stuff yet, at least, but we have had discussion and acknowledgement of a lot of different things in these recent interviews that honestly, it felt like, at least for me, a bit of a catharsis, because, we've been talking on the podcast since Endwalker about a lot of these things, or stuff like this, like the difficulty threshold or the challenge threshold, perhaps, if we want to reterm it. And to see Yoshida-san actually say, yes, we acknowledge this in whatever capacity, right? And we realize that, like, within the genre of game, particularly his illustration about, like, the idea of platformers, right? That there needs to be a sense of challenge that you overcome, respond to, or that is engaging or interesting in a game. And that perhaps we have taken some of that away. I don't know about everybody else, but it just felt to me where I was like, Oh, thank you,
Yes,
Yoshi-san.
very much so.
It's like,
And
yes.
Yeah.
to anybody who's
Or
still
I feel like-
nervous, to anybody who's still nervous, please also take note that he says, please just try it out and give us feedback. If the community at large hates what they do, they'll fix it. They want you to keep
Or,
paying them.
Or at least attempt to fix it.
Yes.
They will at least attempt.
They will pay attention and go, oh, let's see what we can do about that. Which is basically what this article, this portion of this interview is about. Yeah.
Relics. Yes. Oh, we didn't. That's
didn't
not
mention
even in
relics.
here. That's not on this outline. But we did have a link.
It's definitely
Chille,
related.
I'm so glad you brought this up because we did have a link to this that we tossed out weeks ago because I think this was one of the first ones that was released with this round of interviews. That Yoshida-san did acknowledge that they may have missed the mark with this round of relics, and that in the future they are looking to have a more interesting, more engaged, and with more options of how to engage with the content for relic weapons again, so that they feel more like something you have to work towards and earn. And that it seemed as though he was acknowledging that a lot of the response to these ones, although there had been some positive response, a lot of it had been, a little had been very lackluster about it, which was such a cathartic thing to read again. I was so relieved.
And ultimately,
My idea and theory on how I would fix relics, and I'm probably going to be completely wrong about this, and I'm probably going to get booed by everyone, is I feel like it would be good if we could go back to more challenging steps as we did. I know we're getting an open world instance with like a Boja or a Eureka style thing. Now, I feel like it would be cool if they make it so that the first relic weapon that you do, you have to go through these steps, so that you have to do. Maybe they'll use the Kupo Moogle Tome challenge event booklet so that you got different ways to do the relic weapon using the UI from that. Remember the Mog Tome event that just came out recently? Maybe they'll reuse that asset, like not exactly, but like reuse that idea of an asset for the tomes, for the relic weapon. I called it a tome weapon because that's basically what Endwalker is. But yeah, imagine if they use something like that for the relic weapon, and you have to go through you have to do fates in this area, you have to do this in this area, and so forth, or you have to do whatever in the new area. We don't know what it is exactly. And then I know that a lot of people who have alt jobs that they want to have the relic for, they're like, we like the tome one because we can just pick up the tomes for other alt jobs that we like to play.
It's absolutely fair.
Now. Imagine if they do a balance where the first time you get the step, you have to do the grind. Like you have to do Boja, you have to do Eureka, or whatever this is. We don't know what it's called. I'm just giving out names. You have to do the steps where it actually involves like doing different bits of content. But then once you've done once you've done step one and you go back to step one, there's then a vendor that then also sells the required items for tomes that you can then purchase on the second time you work on the relic. So you can either do the grind, and it'll be maybe a little bit easier, a little bit faster, or you can then spend tomes, or you can do a bit mix of both. So to say it needs 5 shiny rocks, and the shiny rocks are 1,000 tomes each. And so you can either get you can get 3 shiny rocks from doing the books, and then you can buy 2 shiny rocks with your 2,000 tomes. So you can mix and match, and that way it'll be easier for you to grind the second job, or third or fourth or whatever.
A solution like that is pretty solid, because I think the biggest issue and probably the biggest reason that they did relics this way this time is because there's so many jobs now, and if people want multiple relics, it'll take 1 kabillion years to get them almost any other way. But I think they simplified it too much. I was actually thinking specifically about this the other day, and I kind of realized that there is at least one step in the ARR books, like the ARR relics. I like that it was brought up in chat at the same time. Yay. I liked the ARR relics. They handed you a book and you did the things in the book. You did the instances, the dungeons, whatever in the book. It kind of breaks down to the same thing because you are basically still just running dungeons, but you're getting check marks instead of tomes to turn in, right? So it's ultimately the same thing, but one of them is conceptually more interesting than pick dungeon, run 5,000 times.
Yeah. One of them you've got a little goal that you're doing. The other one is just like this is something on your menu that you see all the time and you just spend it. but just make sure that fates don't spawn once every like 48 hours for the books. Remember the ones in Fantaland that like,
that was
well, I
awful.
wasn't here at 4 p.m. Well, I guess I'll have to wait until midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I think,
book.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I think in that same interview / article, it was also mentioned like they want to make it slightly more difficult, slightly more challenging, if you will. They don't want to. They're aware of people wanting to have multiple relics for the various jobs that you play. They don't want to make it a hellscape to get all of these weapons. They just don't want it to be like snore-worthy.
Also, people don't be like me. Don't be me, because I still remember during Atma grind,
Oof.
and I'm like, man, I've been grinding for 10 hours. I haven't had a single Atma drop. And I'm like, man, I'm like in the FC going, man, this sucks. It's not dropping at all. It's never dropping. How come it's not dropping? And they're like, Chille, you're in Southern.
Oh
no.
wrong place. Oh no.
Oh, geez.
But you know, there's also been this
Oh,
thing
so
recently where people are like, "There's nothing to do in the game." Well, that's because your relic is super easy to get now. Like maybe if you had to sit and do a couple of Atma fates, then
Yeah. And I mean, there
finding
are
that
ways-
balance is difficult, though.
It is
to make
hard.
it not feel punishing, but also not feel brain dead.
It is hard, but there are ways to do it. You know, I mean, I
For
think a lot
sure.
of it has to do with like tuning the different steps, making sure that the pacing of them, it feels like you are turning over step to step at like a pretty decent pace. I think also streamlining the communication of the steps is something that'd be really big. I was in Boja last night for the first time in 1,000 years with a group, and everybody was like, what step am I on? Where am I? What is it? What quest? What are the quest names? Did I pick it up? Why can't I talk to this guy? Do you have that unlocked? What is the next thing that I need to...
Gamerscape.com, you guys.
I know, but it's like, it was so confusing. Like, you know, Chille, you talked about the Moogle Tombstone event interface, which, like, genuinely I think would be a brilliant idea. Like, just have a thing, like a guide or whatever, that's like, you open it up and here's the interface and you have these 3 weapons you're working on, and it shows you right there, like, what the step is. You click on it, it, like, tells you what that step is. It turns over to the next one when you're on the next thing. Like, having something like that I think would really help. But then also, it's just like
Flowchart organizer.
like a little flow chart in the game, honestly. But at the same time, like, there are ways that they can do this, and it's, you know, in like Guild Wars 2, for example, the legendary weapons and stuff are really fun, and they kind of shake up different aspects of what you might be revisiting, special unique challenges about how you might approach a certain type of content, unique achievements maybe even that can be something that you strive for in a certain fight or something like that, that then gives you a piece of something for your legendary armor collection, or like these different ways that they kind of tie it in, that it doesn't have to always just be grind 1,000 of thing, or like do, you know, you can pace it out. You can add world map exploration. You can add all kinds of different things into the mix, or have unique game modes like we saw with Boja Eureka, and, you know, give some different routes for that. I don't dislike the idea of having ways to like more easily get and acquire different weapons if you've already done like the grind once or stuff like that. But yeah, you do have to give players some level of content. End of sentence. You do. And sometimes in MMOs that does mean that there is an aspect of grinding to it, but there are ways that you can still pace that well and make the journey feel meaningful, or
It's
give
an
a couple
MMO.
options.
Do it with your friends.
Mm.
Multiplayer, massively multiplayerly onlinely video game.
People
Do it
are
with your
friends.
Yes,
People are friends.
you're my friend.
Okay. Yay!
Yes.
To throw it back to challenge versus difficulty really quick, as long as we're done with relics.
Yeah.
I kind of feel this way about Savage this time around too. There were some fights that were fun, but there were a lot of fights, I think more fights than ever in this tier, that I just didn't think were fun. They were difficult. They had value in that respect. They were worth doing, but they weren't fun in ways that I felt like previous tiers were. And I feel like a challenge makes a thing fun. A difficulty does not. So I'd like to see that kind of across the board.
I wish I could agree with you, but I've had like the most cursed tier I think I've had in forever with this tier. Like I've joined a group and then they're like, oh no, we're disbanded, and then I joined another group and then I think we've got like I think like the ship of thesis of this group, because I feel like I think like 3 members out of the whole group in the last like 4 months are the same.
Oh,
It's the same group.
I'm sorry.
But it's been a rough tier. That's
think
why we
some of
gave up
that
on Savage.
Probably
and
because
started doing.
everybody thinks it's not fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll
That's why
jump
we've
to
given up and
the-
tried to do Uwu.
That's
I'll
what
jump to
I'm
the
in right
opposite
now,
side.
which is fun.
I'll jump to the opposite side, which is to say that I
Sure.
think there have been fights in the tiers that I have not enjoyed as much. Hephaestus was a big one. And the unfortunate thing was that I really liked Phase 2, but it
Phase 1
was
sucked butt.
brutal to get there, and it just was not fun. Versus something like P10, is it P10S, the Pandemonium Spider Castle?
Yep.
Where that was a difficult fight and considered to be one of the more difficult of the entire tier itself, but it was fun. Like
Yeah, I
I
thought
had
that
a
one was fun too.
yeah, it was fun. And again, it's kind of tough to differentiate exactly what makes something fun for one person versus another.
Literal
But
hot take. I liked Phoenix. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, some people, like a lot of people hate, right?
I mean,
But,
it's
like,
a much older fight, but I still enjoyed Leviathan in Eden. Was that Eden? That was Eden, right?
Oh,
I
yeah,
really enjoyed
yeah.
Leviathan.
yeah,
was
I actually enjoyed Smokers. I actually found Smokers fun.
They weren't bad, yeah. I'm one of those crazy fizz range that just loves to have like my own special little job. Though I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please keep going.
No, it's okay. No, I mean, I was just gonna say that, like, I think some of it as well has been exacerbated by the fact that we've had just this great lull in the community in general, this coming down off of the 10-year story arc. We've had a sort of lack of engagement in the game on other levels. We've had other things where it feels like, in particular, a lot of folks have had either burnout or struggling just to kind of, engage with the game. And I've seen a lot of statics have turnover in this time. So it's definitely something where I think it's being felt by a lot of folks. But all of this to say, I think that a lot of the feedback that we've heard from these interviews really do seem to be acknowledging, and how they'll implement this and how they'll actually, perhaps make change in these regards, we'll have to see. But I think it's been good, because a lot of the things that I feel like I've been struggling with the game a little bit here or there. I still play it, I still love it, don't get me wrong. But I think they've acknowledged them, and it seems like it's on their mind as well, which I'm relieved about, including this issue.
That survey they put out recently? I wonder how many people were like, it's okay, but why you make so dumb though? Because that's basically what mine said. Like, I still like your game, but why you make so easy snore?
Yeah.
So
that's true. I wonder if that
good
gave
job,
us some,
community. Yay.
Yeah, good feedback,
You know what I've been doing recently that has been a lot of fun, but is just not exactly inane? Going with Billy to get Viper glams. We're just getting scouting stuff from everything. Me and Billy and another friend of ours made an alliance last night and just burned through the Void Arc, like 24-man saga. That's so fun to trio. It really is. Just weird like uncapped farming of glamour. It has been,
I mean, I joined
very nostalgic.
I joined some coil no minimum level stuff.
Yeah?
That was fun. Minimum level no echo. Yeah, we did.
I think,
was it T7? I joined them for, and like I was like, oh my god, I was like scared that I remembered I was trying to teach them mechanics because I remembered the mechanics,
I
like
remember
the Medusas
coil
and stuff
tiers
like that.
better than the more recent tiers. It's very strange. I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but I think maybe, and granted, it's like you and me, we're the control group here, but it's a little telling that the things that we are doing to continue to enjoy the game are old content.
That's also true. True. Yeah.
But there's what we're talking about stuff like that. Just remember that there's also player-related content that's out there that isn't exactly official Square Enix that you can go enjoy, such as role playing and all that. There's all different player bases and stuff like that that you can enjoy.
Or something.
Yeah.
I remember all class 24 mans. Remember when you would have everyone take off the job stones and then do a class run of 24 mans.
Bikini runs of 24 mans, stuff like that.
Talk about weird challenges. I can't remember if this was FanFest 2018 or it must have been 2018. When did Stormblood Eureka?
Are you talking about like the wheel?
2018. No, there was a they had a run in Eureka.
Yes!
Where they had everyone be Lalafels. You had the Lalafell run across one of the Eureka zones where you had to get from one area to the other without dying.
Amazing.
The Paris one. That was the Paris one, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No, it was at Vegas because I
the
participated.
Paris Hotel in Vegas.
Oh, Paris. Yeah, I was gonna say because. Okay. That
Sorry.
Was it.
To be fair, Paris is a real place. I could see where the confusion comes from.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I feel like we have, gone through most of the major things with the
2019, yeah, you were right.
The questions and the, recent interviews. But I think there's a reason that Yoshida-san has been talking about all of these things, all the topics that we covered today, as well as all the additional ones any of you might notice or have read or, from these interviews or these different sort of publicity things that he's been doing as he kind of returns into the cycle to gear up for Dawn Trail, that are really good and really positive. And I'm very glad to hear him acknowledging it because, yeah, there has been a lot of community feedback and there's been a lot of thoughts, and that's how it always goes in a live service game like this. And it goes to show that, as always, they are listening, they are, trying to gather as much information as they can, and that they are willing to figure out how that shapes things moving forward. And I think a lot of these, in summary for me, while the community has responded in a lot of different ways, and there are some topics that people have different feelings on or mixed feelings, like the story skips and things like that. Overall, I've come out of a lot of these interviews feeling like even more excited about Dawn Trail in the next 10 years, because it feels like I can really see the feedback that many people have been giving, myself included, all of us in the forums, on the, surveys, everything. I can see it being acknowledged, and that's been really great.
Agree. I don't think I have anything else to add to that. Like, reading the interviews made me go, that's good, that's good, that's good, and that's good. Sweet, let's keep going. I'm excited. It's gonna be good. All right, let's wrap this thing up. Let's put a cute little messed up digital bow on this guy. I have to make this thing over here work. All right. You can find me on Twitax at Zenidra_A, Blue Sky at Zenidra. Sometimes, I say sometimes Twitter, never Twitch, sorry, at Strawberry Bop. I also help run a D&D podcast / game / chat show called Plus One Shot. It has underscores between plus the word, one the number, and shot the word on Twitch, and no underscores on YouTube, because what is consistency? Rook, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv Rookery. That's ROOKURI. You can find me on YouTube at the same, and you can find me on Twitter at Rookery_. We've been actually, like I said, playing through Final Fantasy IX recently, but we're still popping in for our favorite MMOs, just taking a little bit of time in the patch content lull to shake it up, do a little bit of single player, re-engage with and enjoy Final Fantasy in a different way. So it's been a lot of fun, and as always, keep an eye out for, not only this podcast, but other ones that I do, as well as any additional opportunities, shoutcasting, special events, all the sorts of things in games we love, or even some that hopefully, we keep getting new opportunities and new games and new titles that I can keep sort of introducing to people or get involved with as well.
If you weren't aware, and I hope you are because you're watching and or listening to this show, we are Aetheryte Radio, and you can contact us via email at aetheryteradio@gamerscape.com. We are also on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Aetheryte Radio. And we are under the wonderful Gamer Escape community. We have a Twitax, Blue Sky, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube, all Gamerscape, and we have a Discord, discord.gg/Gamerscape. Come talk to us about stuff and things. We like people. Also, we like our guests, and we would like for our guests to tell you where he can be found and what he's doing.
Well, thank you so much. I'm currently streaming, we are currently streaming through Pharmacy 7 Rebirth over on Moogle Garden Radio on twitch.tv says Moogle Garden Radio. We do a Pharmacy 14 podcast every 2 weeks. I say Pharmacy 14 we can often get distracted by anything Final Fantasy or even food related. We do like to talk about our food because food is good. We've had some wonderful guests in the past on the show. And I stream Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. My wonderful co-host streams Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So yeah, we talk a lot about Final Fantasy 14 and next month. I was gonna say next year. Next month will actually be our 8th anniversary. So 8th anniversary of Moogle Go Around Radio is next month.
Congrats.
Thank
you guys
you.
are very long running as well.
Yeah. So thank you so much for all the support.
Moogles of a feather.
But yeah, I play a lot of video games over on our channel. A lot of Fantasy 14, a lot of other Final Fantasy, and a lot of other different video games. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
We love to see you.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. We will not be back next week. I'm going to go disappear for a little while, but we'll be back probably the following week, and we will very likely continue with our job role roadmap that we began last week with, I say white mage healers. There's more than one healer, sorry. That's it for us for today, though. Thanks, everybody, for bearing with us as we had some weird Twitch technical difficulties, and we can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.